Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Item number 4, public comment.
Mayor, our first speaker is Eduardo Gonzalez. Mayor, and Mr. Gonzalez requested an interpreter, so Ana Gonzalez will be the translator. Señor González, tiene
Sí.
3 minutos.
Ok, buenas tardes, soy Eduardo González. Vengo aquí porque quise dividir una propiedad en McAdoo Estates. Antes de comprar esa propiedad para hacer 2 casas, recorrí toda la subdivisión y vi que había lotes que tenían 2 casas. Entonces vine aquí y pregunté si podía dividir. Y vieron la propiedad aquí y me dijeron, sí, si tienes más de 20,000 pies lo puedes hacer, para que sean 2 lotes de 10,000. Y ya me dijeron el proceso que hiciera, de ir a ver a un ingeniero que hiciera el proceso todo, de que me lo hiciera unos planos. Ya lo hice, vine y pagué el permiso aquí también, pagué al ingeniero, y cuando vengo aquí me lo niegan, bajo la razón de que ahí era el terreno, la subdivisión para una sola casa. Entonces, pues no, ya me dejaron ahí sin saber qué hacer, porque primero vine y pregunté, y a la persona aquí le dije, todavía no compro yo este lote, pero quiero ver si se puede hacer esto, si no, no nos costea comprarlo porque es para 2 casas. Y sí, me dieron el ok que sí, que sí se podía. Que arriba, que aquí en Socorro teniendo más de 20,000 pies, sí se puede sacar 2 lotes de 10,000 por casa.
Mr. Nevares?
Mayor, should I excuse myself from this?
It's public
topic?
comment, so he can offer his comments at the item. You can.
All right.
Does council wish for the interpreter?
Sí, entendimos.
Okay.
I'm sorry, do you need the interpretation? For the public, maybe?
Can you go ahead and translate it to English?
Yes, what he's saying is that he bought a piece of land, and he came and asked if he could, if he bought it, he was going to divide it for 2 houses, and they said yes. They authorized it, he went ahead, he bought the house, and he came for the permit, they said yes. And then after he bought it and he paid for the permit, he paid for an engineer to make the division, then they told him that no, that he could not make that division. That he could not build in 20, he could not build 2 houses. 20,000.
Gracias, señor González. Gracias. Fernie Salcido. Mr. Salcido, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Good evening, everyone, Mayor, Council. Just to talk about item number 17 once again on the agenda this evening for the Vista Bonita development. We're 2 months shy of hashing this, 2 months shy of 4 years working on this, and the recommendations have come in to not to make this development, not to allow them to do this, being it's on the ETJ rather than in the township of the city of Socorro. And I'm just once again pleading with y'all that we do take this into consideration. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Miriam Cruz. Ms. Cruz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Good evening, City Council. I was was gonna come up here and say, man, all but good things. But there's one thing I'm gonna say first, and then I'll say good things about you guys. Unfortunately, this Tuesday, the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting didn't go through because there was no quorum. Quorum for that commission only requires 3 people. And what's unfortunate, I was there. What's unfortunate is that it's not so much that the meeting didn't take place and that there was actually a lot of people from the public attending the meeting, hoping to speak on whatever agenda items that they were there to speak about. My concern is about the cost that the city is having to spend on the public notices and the public hearings and mailing out and making sure that they're notifying all the neighbors that need to come back for the public hearing. That is my concern. And so out of 7 commissioners, only 2 showed up. I know that things happen. I know that even the city council has not met quorum when they expected to, and things come up last minute. But it's just unfortunate because I think it happens a lot more often with these commissions than it does with city council. You guys do a really good job about being here, and I appreciate that as a constituent. I just thought I'd mention that in case that doesn't reach your ears. It does through me, and so I wanted to let you guys know that. Other than that, I wanted to say good things about Ms. Rodarte and Mr. Medina. I sent out an email asking for updates, and I was giving answers, some very general answers, but nonetheless answers. And you guys are doing a good job, and Socorro is doing a good job. We have parents here from kids who have been doing really good things for the city of Socorro, representing Socorro and the Bulldogs really good. I'm a proud Socorro alumni, so go Bulldogs. And what was the last thing? Oh, and then of course Mr. Reta doing lots of good things with the community and all the grants that are coming, that are being at least requested. I think those are all good things that the city is doing to move forward. So I wanted to say thank you to the city, and thank you for taking whatever thoughts or questions that I ever have and taking the time to answer them.
Mayor, those were all our speakers.
At this motion, can somebody entertain a motion to move item number 15 and then 14 next?
Motion to approve, to move up items 15 and 14 consecutively.
Second.
Ms. Mayor, also, can we move 20 up before 19?
So it's 15, 14.
20 and then 19.
Okay, so then I'll amend my motion to reflect that the next items come up would be items 15 and 14. And then as we go down into the agenda, that item 20 be disposed of before 19.
Thank you.
René Rodriguez is absent. Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 15, discussion and action on the approval request to accept proposal replat for McAdoo Acres, replat A, being all of 5, Block 2, McAdoo Acres, located at 11291 Mark Mabin Court.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request. The petitioner is asking to subdivide a tract of land from an already established subdivision. This is McAdoo Acres. Unfortunately, we don't have a presentation tonight. We're having problem with the monitor. This property is about 1,200 feet northeast on North Loop. It's in the corner of Mark Mabin and Jim Bean. The applicant is asking to subdivide the property into 2 lots. They're both proposed to be 0.23 acres. The total area of lot 5 is half an acre. According to the flood insurance rate maps, this property is in Zone X. The Planning and Zoning Department is recommending denial. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends the same thing. The reason for that is because we found that this proposal is inconsistent with the zoning of the property. This property is zoned for R1, single family residential. The original subdivision plat the original intent was to have 115 lots that are half acre with one single family home. The master plan, the City of Socorro's master plan is also proposing that this subdivision be maintained as R1. Under an R1 subdivision, the proposed density is low density. By subdividing this property, you would be creating a higher density that is inconsistent with the original design of the subdivision. So if you look at it from a zoning perspective, if they propose an R2, it will be denied because it will be considered spot zoning. But if they split the property in half, they're gonna have the same result. They're gonna increase the density, and it's gonna be inconsistent with the bulk of the buildings. I wanted to show you on the aerial map that the lots that are already established are half-acre lots, and most of the properties have only a single family home. The applicant identified 7 properties that have a couple of buildings in them. It was explained to them that those buildings will be addressed by code enforcement because those were illegal structures, but that's not a reason to deviate from the master plan. Also, the zoning classification was established for this subdivision to avoid overcrowding of the land and to avoid undue concentration of population according to the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 211. So under Section 38 or Chapter 38 of the zoning code, it says that a series of 2 lots shall be denied because they're considered a subterfuge to defeat the purposes of having a zoning law. What happens here is a series of we've seen this happen time and time again. It happened at Burbridge Acres, it happened on Aldama Estates, it happened on Dairyland subdivision where random lots have been subdivided. Eventually, the density of the original subdivision is doubled. In this case, they have 115 lots in McAdoo Acres. By allowing this, you're gonna set a precedent and you're gonna have to allow the rest of the lots to be subdivided. Worst case scenario, you would have at least 230 lots with no capital improvements whatsoever. For that reason, Chapter 38 considers this a subterfuge. That's the other reason why we're recommending denial. The last thing that we found is that when McAdoo Acres was recorded in 1986, covenants and restrictions were recorded as well. Under those covenants, it was mentioned to the buyers of those lots that the way the subdivision was laid out was gonna have only one single family home per lot. On the following section, it says that in no event, and I'm just reading off the covenant, in no event shall the area of any lot be re-subdivided out of the original lot. So, because of the subdivision is already developed, we consider this becoming an issue for the neighbors. Any questions?
Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir.
With regard to, and I understand I understand the covenants and everything that's been established for that particular area. But my concern is that if Mr. Gonzalez called the department, is there any record of that phone call or that the information given to him was
sir.
that he would be allowed to subdivide?
No, sir.
Ms. Villalobos?
That was one of my questions, but my question is, who did he say told him that it could be subdivided?
Well, what happens is when somebody goes into our department and they submit a petition, what we do there at the front desk is we look at the area, but that's just a preliminary look at the area where they're gonna propose to subdivide. That doesn't mean, and that's for that reason we explain to every single applicant that there is no guarantee that it's gonna get approved. We never guarantee that to anybody. We even warn them that there is risk, and after we do the full investigation and something comes up, the recommendation might change.
So, and I have several questions. When was this property purchased?
We have no idea when he purchased the lot. He's saying that he bought it after he filed the application to subdivide.
And the application was filed just recently, right? We're not talking about years down the road.
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to, if I could ask the petitioner a question or two.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Señor González, ¿cuándo compró la propiedad usted?
Más o menos como en junio.
Del año pasado.
Sí, el año pasado, sí,
Ok.
más o menos.
Junio.
Sí,
¿Y
por ahí.
quién le dijo que podía dividirlo?
La persona que está encargada aquí enfrente, no recuerdo el nombre, el que está aquí enfrente, el muchacho como les digo, él fue el que me dijo.
Ok, no fue nadie más, no fue su agente que le ayudó a comprar esta propiedad,
Oh, no,
nadie.
no, fue
Ok.
aquí, fue aquí.
Ok.
Y como le digo, antes de comprarlo,
Ujú,
por eso pregunté porque vi que había unas divisiones ya hechas.
ujú.
Por eso antes de comprarlo me dijeron que sí, viendo el plano, es esta dirección, es esto, sí se puede.
Ok. La otra pregunta que tengo para usted es, cuando usted cerró en la compañía de títulos, le explicaron que era una casa por terreno.
No, la verdad es que los papeles se ven rápido y se firma
Ujú.
y no.
Sí, no, sí entiendo. Ok. Gracias.
Mr. Pérez?
Señor González, una pregunta más. La compañía o la casa de títulos, ¿no le informó a usted que había compactos o pactos, digo, ya establecidos para el fraccionamiento, por decir de que no podía construir más de un edificio en la propiedad?
No creo porque en realidad pues ellos no sabían para qué lo iba a comprar. O sea, yo compré el lote para construir, ¿verdad? Pero ellos no les platiqué a ellos mi plan, pues. O sea, yo al ver que sí.
Porque le pregunto porque como es área residencial,
Sí.
¿verdad? Se supone que nada más se puede construir una vivienda.
Sí.
Entonces, en ese instante, yo diría que la casa de títulos o la compañía de títulos debería haberle explicado a usted de que era una área donde nada más podía construir una casa por lote y que había pactos ya establecidos porque es un área ya, por decir, vieja, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Que ya tiene bastante tiempo establecida.
Y yo porque lo hice así, porque ya había dividido aquí antes. Ya otro lote lo había dividido y todo. O sea, ya había pasado por este proceso igual. Dije, pues como aquí me dijeron, se puede y me dejaron hacerlo, pues hice el mismo proceso con diferencia de un año. Y como le digo, antes de comprarlo, vi que había otras divisiones, otras 2 casas en algunos lotes. Por eso me guié, pues más bien que sí se podría.
Ms. Villalobos?
Le quiero informar como vendedora de casas por 16 años,
Ujú.
le quiero informar. Número 1, la compañía de títulos quizás no le vaya a informar,
Ujú.
pero el que sí le debe de informar es la persona que se lo vendió. Y las personas que estuvieron en la transacción, ya sea vendedores o el vendedor. Si él sabía que si el vendedor o las personas de bienes y raíces, los agentes, sabían para qué usted necesitaba esos terrenos, ellos le fueran informado qué son las reglas de ese terreno. la razón por qué le digo, porque nomás porque todo el mundo lo está haciendo no quiere decir que sea correcto o que la ley esté de su favor. ¿Sí me entiendo?
Sí.
¿Sí me explico? No sé si usted entendió, pero Job dijo que le habían dicho que habían riesgos, que todavía, que a lo mejor se podría, pero no sabían exactamente si sí o no hasta que pasaran por todo el proceso y se investigara, ¿verdad?, el proceso. Creo que aquí hubo un poco de culpabilidad de los que estuvieron parte de la transacción, que no le informaron correctamente. Una de las cosas que, y estoy viendo que la mejor compra propiedades usted, porque me acaba de decir que tuvo, una de las cosas que tiene que leer son lo que le llamamos the covenants, que son las reglas de ese terreno. Sabemos que hay otras gentes que tienen doble vivienda allí, y pues a base de lo que está pasando aquí se va a tener que arreglar ese problema con ellos. Ya sería la ciudad más adelante.
Okay.
So there's no more.
No, pues ya le dije él también.
Can I just say for those that don't speak English? What I was explaining to this gentleman was that every residential property has a covenant, and that covenant states what the property can be used for and cannot be used for. Unfortunately, he was not informed because I'm not sure who guided him in his purchase. The title company usually will not tell you what you can use or not use the property for. They're not there for that. It's usually the people that are involved in the transaction, seller, agents, or seller and buyer. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
As much as I don't like doing this, but I don't think that procedurally, we already know what we need to do. Motion to deny.
Second.
Señor González, ¿desea hablar de nuevo?
No,
¿Quiere hacer algún comentario?
no, pues ya no.
¿O si quiere que tiene evidencia o alguna cosa que tenga?
No, les traje la evidencia y todo eso de las casas, ya la tienen aquí. No.
Miriam Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I'm trying to think of how the city can move forward to try to explain to the public that there are also zoning differentials, not only covenants, but he mentioned in the planning and zoning meeting about that other property that he had subdivided, and it was an area that they allowed him to, and he got permission. And I think something that the public is starting very uncomfortably getting used to is the fact that maybe some things were done in the past that probably shouldn't have been happening. Some things were getting approved that probably shouldn't have gotten approved. And because that's what we keep hearing in the Planning and Zoning Commission is, but 2 years ago I got this, 5 years ago I got this. And so I don't know what the city can do to maybe better inform individuals. I understand that it's to their risk, but I don't know what else other than it's at your own risk. Can we maybe educate the public a little better about different things that they should maybe do their own homework and research on? I don't know if that's our role, but maybe some informational pamphlets at the planning and zoning table, something. Thank you.
Mr. Perez?
I think that in terms of administratively, and of course, I'm not going to tell you how to run the departments, but I think that if maybe we had, if we identified the R1s, which areas are R1s, R2s, and that way have it handy when anybody asks for an application, and then we can look up that area and explain to them what can be done or what cannot be done in those particular areas, because that way, that's the saying goes in Spanish, sobre aviso no hay engaño. And so once they know that they can build or they can't build or they can subdivide or can't, then I think that the process might be a little smoother.
Ms. Villalobos?
And, thank you for that, Mr. Perez. And again, I'm not telling you how to run the department, but another thing that you can do that we do in real estate is explain the situation and have them sign off on it. This way there is no question that they were informed in English and in Spanish, what could happen, what are the processes, just like it was explained up here. Just like Job explained it, that's the way, and they should sign off on it. I think that would help tremendously the community, not make those because I'm sure it was a costly, investment for this gentleman, and now he's gonna have to, live with it.
Mayor and Council, just to make it clear, we do explain in English and Spanish. The other subdivision that he's talking about, he was allowed to subdivide it because the other subdivision is a higher density. For that reason, we couldn't find a conflict, and we recommended approval on the other area.
Ms. De La Hoz?
And yes, I believe that that's why it was approved and why this one is being denied. But if you have it in writing, there's no question
Correct.
that that they signed off on it, and there's no question that they know what the risks are. We have nothing to go. We have your word and his word. Okay?
Yes.
Or your people's word, administrative word, and his word. So, and sometimes we perceive differently. Like you tell us the first time, and we probably understand differently. Okay?
Thank you.
Ms. Rodarte, I'm sorry, I meant to address everybody, Mr. Medina, with respect.
Cesar Nevares.
Well, I live right across the street from this gentleman. They've already built a house through the far end of the property. What he's talking about, as far as other properties there with additional structures, they're not necessarily houses. They're either a garage or some sort of a storage or what have you. But there's no properties there with 2 homes and a half-acre lot. Okay.
Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez is absent. Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 14, discussion and action on the approval of comments, recommendations for inclusion in the SH20 Alameda Avenue Corridor Study.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. Mike Lena, the city planner. Today, we have the Texas Department of Transportation making a presentation on State Highway 20, as we know it here locally, Alameda. And Jacobs is the consultant that will make the presentation. So on behalf of Jacobs, I'd like to welcome Marcus Ashdown.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. We appreciate your time. We have a presentation that is included in your packet. I also have a copy here on the tablet, so if we do need to get any more detail, just please stop me and let me know. As was shown in the introduction, the Texas Department of Transportation is doing a study along the Alameda corridor from downtown El Paso all the way out to Tornillo, which obviously would impact Socorro as well. And so this is a 20-year study. This is not a project for TxDOT. This is not a funded project, I should say, but a study. So the goal of this study is to collect public feedback, to build traffic models for that Alameda that will map the needs of traffic along Alameda for the next 20 years and prioritize projects that TxDOT can then work from for the next 20 years. So as they come into funding, say for illumination, if they get safety funding and they have an illumination project in Socorro, then they already have a guidebook to go to for the next 20 years along Alameda corridor. So today, I'd like to share the alternative phase for this study. I've already, if you're following along with the slides, I've already given the study limits. This goes from, the study itself goes from downtown El Paso all the way out to Tornillo. It's a 35-mile corridor. Right now we're about halfway through the study. We've just recently in January came out to the public and had several public meetings and collected a lot of feedback on 2 sets of alternatives that we'll go through today and get your comment on. And then from here, the rest of the study will go from collecting these alternatives and building a set of recommendations that will go into the SH20 Alameda Avenue corridor plan that, like I said, TxDOT will use for the next 20 years to develop projects into individual, as individual funding comes available. So To organize the corridor, as I said, it's a 35-mile corridor from downtown to Tornillo, so that Alameda Avenue changes quite a bit. Actually starts as Texas Avenue and then changes to Alameda Avenue before it gets to Socorro. So in the slides, you see the context areas. We developed context areas all along the corridor so that as we're in downtown, we're not recommending something in downtown that will also be in Tornillo or Socorro, because downtown is different than Socorro and Tornillo. And so there's different context areas that we've separated, 8 different ones. The city of Socorro falls within, if you're looking at the slide, it's the purple shape. It's the Paseo context area, and it's called the Paso context area, sorry. Spelled Paseo there, but it should be Paso. And the reason why it is the Paso context area is because the new Paso del Norte Trail that is proposed to go alongside the Franklin Canal along Alameda 20. And so that study, that is individual and not connected to our study, but the Alameda Corridor study is working very closely to make sure that the road, Alameda Avenue operations, tie very closely to that trail. And so the pedestrian connectivity along Alameda Avenue is much greater. So within the Paso context area, we're looking at everything from Loop 375 all the way out to the edge of Socorro and Clint. Existing characteristics, we have about 80 feet of right-of-way. TxDOT has about 80 feet of right-of-way in this area. There's 2 lanes in each direction along Alameda Avenue, lots of school zones, lots of schools in this area. That is a major concern as far as pedestrian traffic and school children getting to school. Most of the corridor in this area has no sidewalks, and so another concern, especially along the canal, there's no adequate pedestrian facilities. Currently, El Paso County Transit operates along this area. However, it's seen that more transit will come. Again, we're looking 20 years into the future, so we're anticipating that transit use will only get more expanded as far as time goes into the city of Socorro. So we're also looking at making sure that when transit does get a little bit more prevalent, that it does have a safe way for people to access the bus. It's not just stopping in the middle of, right now would be mud or dirt because there's undeveloped shoulder between the road and the canal. And then also whenever the trail comes by, the trail is developed alongside the canal, that any kind of bus facilities would be connected to the trail. And so again, the pedestrian facilities are linked in between the two. So there's 2 sets of alternatives that we looked at and would love your feedback today. This first set of alternatives, there's 2 sets of 3 alternatives. The first set of 3 alternatives is looking at the urban design. And so when we talk about this, we're talking about what does the road look like. So this is the look and the feel. Well, afterwards, we'll talk about the operations and how the road would be if you were to travel on it. But right now we want to talk about what it looks like. And so we have 3 different urban design themes. The first of which is the historic culture theme. All 3 of these themes take into different aspects of Alameda, different aspects of the El Paso region, and trying to capture the different colors, textures, and making Alameda not only work as you drive along it, but also look appeasing for those who are visiting or those who are living here. And so it's a corridor that you can have pride in. And so the historic culture looks at the development of El Paso, the history that comes in this region. And if you're looking at this slide here, it shows the development of how we take some of the stories and the history of the region and we translate that into different colors, very similar to the historic building colors that you have in the back of the room there. So looking to capture the different colors, and then on the next slide you'll see 3 different color palettes. And so although whenever we're looking at some of these pictures, you'll see one of these palettes shown. In this case, it's the last one, which is the little bit more of the sun-baked clay, as it shows, mesquite and sun-baked clay. It can go in other different palettes too, so you're not tied to that color. The third slide for the historic culture theme, which looks like this, just shows what Alameda would look like conceptually if it had those different themes on it. So you can see the different colors. One thing to point out is the intersections. The intersections will look a little bit different. So any signalized intersection where you have major conflicting vehicles, we want to look and feel a little bit different. So as pedestrians are crossing, the crosswalk isn't just paved markings. It's actually concrete that has been stenciled and sprayed in a different direction so that as the rain and weather takes away, it doesn't take away the paint of the crosswalks. And so it's just road. You see that often on roads where it's just painted lines. After a while, the weather takes those lines away. And so instead, it's stamped concrete, which doesn't add a lot to the cost, but it makes it preserve a lot longer. And so the crosswalks are more delineated and higher for pedestrian safety. It also has an effect, as has been shown in past studies, that when an intersection looks different, so if you're traveling down the road, you're looking at this picture, if you're traveling down the road and you see red sidewalks and certain types of trees, and then you come and all of a sudden the color changes to a different type of gray, vehicles start to slow down, and people who might have been looking at their phone or thinking about something else, they start paying a little bit more attention, which is important as you're approaching an intersection. So I'm spending a little bit more time on this first theme because the other two themes kind of follow the same format, so you'll see. We'll go to the next theme, which is the Rio Grande theme. Again, kind of a similar format. On the first slide, you see the formatting of the storyline of how we came up with the different colors and textures and what that looks like as it's put down on the road instead of the different tiles that you saw in the historic culture theme. And this one, you see the wavy pattern meant to signify the Rio Grande. Again, this is done through stencils on concrete, and so it doesn't add a lot of cost. It's one pour for a sidewalk. You just stencil it and color it during the pour, and you can sandblast it to get to different colors, and so you're not talking about different pours, you're not talking about different materials. We don't want to put different types of materials like bricks, because whenever it rains, over time they become slick, and people who are walking on them, it's a slipping hazard. So this is all cost effective as well. Again, the next slide will have the different color palettes that you can put into this theme. And then finally, the third one for the Rio Grande theme shows what that might look like if it was implemented on the corridor. Which takes us to the third urban design theme, which is the Franklin Mountain theme. Obviously, the Franklin Mountains are a big identifier for the region, being that they overlook the El Paso County. And so you see the different colors that you see in the mountains and how they can be captured and pushed into the urban design along the sidewalks and the corridor. And then the different colors, and then the implementation on what it would look like on the corridor. So this is the first set of alternatives that we're looking at. And before we go into the next set of alternatives, which is the geometry and actual design of the roadway and a couple intersections themselves, are there any questions about the urban design theme? Is there any preference to one theme over the other?
I like the
Mr. Perez?
I'm sorry, the Mission style, not the Rio Grande, the first.
Historic culture.
The historic culture. May I ask a question though?
Yeah.
Would it be possible, and I don't know if this is feasible,
Okay.
take into account roundabouts? Because we have this corridor is historically oversped, or rather there's a lot of speeding going on that goes on, and so I think that if we had maybe like roundabouts that would also enhance the appearance of the corridor itself. So I'm not sure if that can be taken into account.
So we did look at roundabouts. We looked at not only roundabouts, but lots of different alternative intersection designs, because the four-way intersection is the most common type of intersection, but it does have the most conflict points as well. So from a safety perspective, it's also the most dangerous, ironically. It also, a roundabout doesn't fit everywhere, as many people in El Paso will attest to. Some people love them, some people really don't love them. And so it takes a certain amount of volume. Whenever you're coming, or your question about speed calming, however, that is something, and aesthetics themselves have an impact. If the corridor looks better, if you're going down a corridor that is a straight shot and has nothing but a canal and a levee on one side, you're going to want to speed. Whereas if you got something that looks a little bit better and has different color and has trees and things like that, it actually does have a natural calming effect. When we get into the design, we also have a couple ideas as far as some treatments on the side of the road. whether it's at the intersections where the sidewalk will actually come into the intersection a little bit and not into the actual lane, but to the driver, it makes it feel like the sidewalk is coming to the lane. It'll be easier once we get to the pictures. They're called bulb outs, but that also has a speed calming effect. So I heard the historic culture, and I heard all of them. It is in need of some work for sure.
Ms. Villalobos?
Yes, I had read not too long ago about the different colors and how people react to them, whether they're speeding or not paying attention, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that I read were, especially during rush hour and everybody's running late, and you have, what we have is, what has been brought to my attention from our constituents is a red light everywhere, especially on Alameda.
Yeah.
Eliminating some of those street lights on Alameda could actually give them that extra time where they don't have to spend on the red light, because sometimes they're the only vehicle sitting there waiting. So I don't know, I think you understand what I'm trying to say, and I don't know what your take is on that.
So I mentioned that you don't see it here because we're looking at the developed product of graphics, but before all of this, we built a traffic model that not only had Alameda, but pretty much the entire east side here, and we looked at the region as a whole, and then we took each signalized intersection, every single signalized intersection along the corridor, and we took the different timings that is currently in the corridor, and as we get into the geometry, you'll see that we grade every intersection's effectiveness on a level of service scale, and so it's just like school grades A to F. And what we notice is there was a significant increase without proposing any kind of changes on just retiming the lights. And so, because I think it's been some time since the lights have been timed, and that's one of the recommendations that will come as a short-term improvement, is looking at the timing of the lights, because not only is timing the lights will make the intersections move more efficiently individually, but also in succession. So lights that are timed and coordinated one after the other, you can also use as a speed calming technique. So you can actually time the lights so that if you're going the speed limit, you're hitting green, 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 green. And if you're speeding, you'll hit red and then you stop. And if you speed again, you'll hit red and then you'll stop. And so you can use the lights as a speed calming measure as well. However, if they're not in sync, then you get disjointed. So
That's a great tool to use, since we already have the lights, to slow down some of those speeders and.
Yeah. Okay, so
Perez?
If I may, and only because you touched on it, and I promise I won't interrupt your
No, please.
presentation anymore. My concern is this: in the interim, the maintenance and upkeep of Alameda. Maybe it's not part of but it's something that I need to let you know, because to me it's very dangerous. First of all, it's very dark to begin with at night. Secondly, the lanes are not always they're not defined very well, unfortunately, and so I know as a driver I sometimes get confused because there's a little bit of a veer on Alameda, and the lines aren't always exactly the brightest and don't reflect very well, and I think that's also a hazard. And finally, the manhole covers.
Yep.
There have been, they're not to the grade of the asphalt or the pavement, and so I know that I try and swerve from hitting them, and so I'm thinking that if I do it, I'm sure others do it, and that also adds to the wear and tear of the vehicles on the road. So again, my 2 cents on that.
Yes. Thank you. So some news is TxDOT is actually working on a right now. They such funding as I was just talking about, as things come about, as TxDOT gets funding, then they have a resource to look and see where can the money go, where is it going to do some good. And so there is a project that is just starting through some safety funding from 375 eastward that would be illumination, and so they are putting some illumination in. But however, more illumination is needed, and it's definitely part of the study. Strictly maintenance items, like whenever they pave, they continue adding layers of pavement, and so the manhole slowly gets lower and lower into from the surface. That's not part of our study because we're looking more conceptually long vision. However, as an affiliate of TxDOT, the comment is noted, and we'll make sure it gets
I appreciate
it gets
that.
back
Thank
to
you.
TxDOT. Okay. Okay, so the second set of alternatives that we wanted to share with you is the roadway alternatives, so the actual design of the roadways. And so similar to the culture or to the urban design themes, we looked at 3 different alternatives. And the alternatives are centered mostly around how the corridor is used, how the road is used. And so I'm now on this slide here. So the first alternative is alternative A, and it's looking at basically similar uses to how Alameda is used today. And so predominantly vehicles. However, we do want to make sure that the design of the roadway is safe. There are some updates that need to happen. The operations, some operations are lacking, and they're especially lacking in 2040. And so we're looking to get what the roadway needs to have a good level of service in 2040, and the pedestrian connectivity, like I said. So those are the 3 main aspects of all the alternatives, and alternative A keeps to those. So pedestrian activity, design, safe design, and operational improvements. Alternative B looks at a little bit more of a bicycle and pedestrian type of use. And so the main difference is, as you can see, instead of that outside lane, instead of a wider outside lane, the lane is the same size as the inside lane, and there's a separated bike lane that's a buffer separated bike lane that's alongside the roadway. And that's the main difference between alternative B, is taking the bikes out of the shared lane concept with the vehicles. Alternative C is looking more so towards the transit component, and so it's lots of different transit improvements, which again, we're looking 20 years from now, so we're foreseeing that transit will play an increasingly bigger role in the city of Socorro and the transportation needs that the city has. And so as transit becomes more prevalent, doing things like bus pullouts. So as a bus gets to an intersection, it goes through the intersection, and then it has a space to get off the road and connect to the sidewalk, and so that through vehicles can continue to go and they don't have to wait behind a bus. It's also very dangerous if the bus stops intermittently, because vehicles aren't expecting a stopped vehicle on a state highway, and so there's a lot of rear end collisions with buses because of that. And so it's safer for the buses, and it's also easier for operations to continue on the roadway. So alternative C is looking more so towards that future. We can skip the next 2, the pedestrian alternatives in the rural context areas if you have those, and just go straight into the intersection. So part of the design of the study is looking at, we didn't want to design the entire corridor because this is a conceptual study, so that would be a little bit too much information. However, we wanted to pick out highlighted intersections along the corridor, several in each context area, where we can design those, and so you can see an example of what the corridor would look like with these alternatives. And so the first one we want to look at is Loop 375, which plays a huge role in the connectivity of Socorro to El Paso. As we modeled this interchange, we saw that here, this is going to be easier. I'll explain a little bit more on this first slide, and then you can see the second. But on the right side, you'll see existing condition, and that's just a satellite image of Google Maps. If you open Google Maps right now, that's what Loop 375 looks like. And then you'll see in the box it says existing 2018 AM level of service. So in the AM peak, the level of service right now is D. So TxDOT commonly uses D. Again, this is just like school. A is great, D is passing, E and F are failing. So TxDOT's looking for D or better. So currently, the AM and the PM peak are operating at level of service D, which means it's passing, but barely. When we look at the do nothing, which is the grade below that, and that means if in 2040, so 22 years from now, if we didn't do anything to that interchange, and all the growth that Socorro is supposed to have, all the growth inside the loop, the people who are using from the other side, it will have a level of service F in the AM, so it will completely break down in the morning, and then in the PM it'll have level of service E. So again, it will break down, and the interchange will fail to operate. So the Loop 375 needs some work for sure in the next 22 years. So we looked at 3 different alternative solutions. I'll skip alternative A for now, but alternative B and C, they keep a vaguely similar design and layout to what exists today. However, there's a couple added turn lanes because that's the main concern. The main problem that we modeled on Loop 375 is all the growth that Socorro and Clint and San Lazario are having, and then all the growth inside Loop 375. There's lots of traffic coming to Loop 375 and making right and left turns going to either I-10 or the expressway. And so there's lots of turning traffic. Turning traffic is what makes intersections break down very quickly, because whenever a vehicle is turning, you can't have anybody else coming the other direction. And so you have to stop everybody else for that turn. So whenever there's lots of turning traffic, it's very easy for an intersection to break down. Just like these two intersections on either side of the bridge at Loop 375 are barely not breaking down now, although I'm sure some days they do. And then in 2040, they will be breaking down for sure. And so by adding some added turn lanes, we give some more capacity to those turning movements. We do need a little bit of right-of-way in order to, added right-of-way in order to get those turn lanes. However, we do get an acceptable level of service. You see that even with the added projected growth of 22 years, in the alternative B and C, we are achieving level of service D. That's what you can see in those bottom two graphics. However, we thought we could do better than D. And so we looked at a type of interchange that does not exist in El Paso right now. It's called a displaced left turn. And that's what is shown in alternative A. And what a displaced left turn does is it does exactly what it says in its name. It takes the left turn out of an intersection and pulls it out so it happens before you get to the intersection. So if you go to the next slide, it's a blow up of that exact graphic. It looks like this. At least I hope it does. Do you have that? You do? Okay. So you'll see the blue lines. The blue lines signify what the movement would be if you were making a left turn. So you don't go up to the intersection like you would right now, go under the bridge, and then make a left turn. Instead, you make the left turn long before you ever get to the bridge. And so that whenever the left turn traffic gets to that main intersection right at the interchange, it's not a left turn, it's a through movement, so it can go at the same time as the other through movements. So one, we add a U-turn capacity at I-10. So the southbound from I-10 does not have a U-turn right now. So we would add a U-turn capacity there. And two, we change the level of service. And if you can see on the previous slide where it has all three alternatives, the level of service in 2040 goes from F to A. In the AM or B at its worst in the PM on the east intersection. And so really significant improvement, all because we can take the turning movements and we isolate them outside. This also has major safety improvements because the most dangerous turning movement at any intersection is the left turn. It's most dangerous for the vehicles because it has to cross over opposing traffic. It's also the most dangerous for pedestrians because if you're in a vehicle making a left turn, you're looking for cars that are going to hit you. You're not looking for a pedestrian in the crosswalk that's also trying to cross the road. And so that's where we see the most fatalities and the most collisions is on the left turn movement. So by taking the left turn movement completely out of the situation, we make this interchange a lot safer. And also because of the unique traffic movement at Loop 375 in Alameda, operationally it makes it work very well. And so we're very confident that will have a lot of improvement. I'll pause here if there's any concerns. This is a very...
Ms. Villalobos?
I noticed you didn't mention all the 18-wheelers that are there during, I guess, peak hours, and how dangerous it is. Are you guys planning to do anything anytime soon? There was just an accident last month where somebody died because of it. It was a car accident right at Zaragoza, before getting to the Alameda exit, because of all the 18-wheelers that were there. I noticed you didn't mention that. Are you guys planning to do anything about that? Because it does affect us
absolutely,
tremendously.
Yeah. We looked at the truck traffic. Unless TxDOT was to put together any kind of policy restricting truck traffic, which is not in the scope of our study, our scope of our study is looking at making the truck traffic, which we did collect how much traffic is on the roads, is looking to make sure that it's as safely designed as possible. A lot of times we see trucks having collisions because intersections are too narrow, or the curbs or curb corners are not structured enough, so the drivers are concentrating on not smashing into the curb or the street light or something like that, some kind of obstruction from a road that's not made for trucks, and then they end up running to a road.
And I'm sorry, I'm talking about the 18-wheelers that are standing there for hours and hours before going into Mexico.
That's not on the Alameda corridor, sorry.
Oh, for the port of entry.
Yes,
Mhm.
because I mean, they're literally right, I mean, they come all the way to the entrance of North Loop.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they're just there for hours and hours and hours.
No, the study is not looking at that. However, in our conversations during the study, we have collected comments that it was projected that opening the MF Aguilera port of entry in between Fabens and Tornillo, that was projected to have a lot better improvement on getting some of the trucks off of these inner city port of entries and a little bit further out of town.
So
But
those
it's
are
not in
just
the study.
talks, but it's nothing concrete.
Well, that was the main intention for opening up that port of
Tornillo,
entry, is
the
to
Tornillo.
divert some of that traffic outside of the city.
And it hasn't happened, do you know why?
I don't believe that full access to the port of entry has been opened yet. I don't think,
Okay, got it.
not to
Alrighty.
my knowledge. Okay, the second intersection that we looked at in this area, and the final one, is the Rio Vista Road intersection, just down the road. And so we looked at this intersection because of how much school activity is going on in the area. There's a redevelopment of the high school. There's a development of a new, I believe it's an elementary school and a new private school. And so within about a quarter-mile's radius of this intersection, there's going to be 3 different schools. And the canal, I guess, acts as a barrier in between the neighborhoods that are to the south of Alameda and to the schools that are to the north of Alameda. And so Rio Vista Road intersection acts as a very common pedestrian traffic for students who are crossing to go to school. And so we wanted to, the main improvements are for pedestrian traffic. And the level of service is a passing grade. It's a level C in the build, which is fine for vehicle traffic. That's about what you would expect at an intersection. The main improvements at this intersection in all 3 alternatives are pedestrian enhancements. So crosswalk enhancements to make sure that there is a median separation, so you don't have break down some of the U-turn traffic, and then a shorter crossing width with a little bit wider sidewalks. We are looking at other recommendations, maybe mid-block crossings to go across the Alameda in front of the high school. We're talking with the Water District and also with the Paso del Norte Foundation that is working on the path, maybe looking into a pedestrian sky bridge to connect the neighborhoods straight over the canal and Alameda into the high school. Those are all being looked at, however, at the intersections mostly.
Mr. Perez?
What would be a design change that would make any one of these alternatives either an A or a B during the peak hours? Amen.
Capacity. So we can continue, that's always the mantra of transportation. We can continue widening, and we can get so much capacity that the cars, because remember, the level of service is only looking at car traffic, so that we can continue adding lanes and turning lanes, and so the cars can go through no problem. However, we can't add lanes going south because the canal's there and the canal's historic, so we can't touch that. So we'd have to go north, and so the high school we'd have to take right away out of the high school. We'd have to take right away out of all those businesses along the corridor. And so it's kind of a pros and cons. We could go for an A, however, the amount of impact that we'd have to do to get to a level in A, we don't think it justifies it at this point. The operations work just fine.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
What would, I know a lot of your projects are 20, 40, 5 years down the road. What would we have to give you in order to have some of these streets that we have here in Socorro widen faster than, 20 years from now?
Well, the study itself goes out for 20 years. However, at the end of the study, we're going to prioritize projects into short, medium, and long-term projects. And short-term is within the next 5 years. So like illumination. If we get safety funding, getting some illumination or maybe some mid-block crossing, things that don't require right-of-way acquisition or big construction dollars or environmental impacts. Maybe medium and long-term are more some of these bigger like the Loop 375 interchange, which will require right-of-way acquisition or will require environmental assessment and some things that will take a little bit more time. But this isn't just looking at projects that are 20 years from now. We're also looking a little bit closer term. As far as what can the city of Socorro do, TxDOT is reaching out, and they're wanting to get feedback in the planning stage, because as soon as this plan is done, the idea, or even before the plan is done, in the fall of this year, the idea is that we're already starting to have a partnership set up, and TxDOT is looking for partnerships on things, because for example, some of those urban design themes with trees and trash cans and things like that, TxDOT doesn't have any maintenance for trees and collecting trash, and so that would be something that TxDOT would get into partnership with the county, the city, in order to get some of those higher elements and maintenance. So knowing that the public support is there, it would definitely help to progress some of these a lot faster. But we are definitely looking a lot shorter term than just 20 years. That's the extent that we're looking.
Well, just to throw this out there, we have, I believe, 4 or 5 new subdivisions coming up in a 2-way lane that is a big concern to us. So, a huge concern to us. So I thought I'd throw that out. It's on North Loop and towards Clint. And these subdivisions are coming. Some of them have already started.
Yep.
And some of them will probably start in a year or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a huge concern. So you have nothing on that today?
So we have projected with city and with also the regional plan that is looking at even further out than our study goes. We have projected a lot of growth in Socorro and Clint, and so these level service numbers, they are taking in a more aggressive, these aren't just normal community growth. This is a little bit more of aggressive growth, because we do see the trend in Socorro and Clint and outside of Loop 375 occurring at a faster development growth percentage than what your average 2% may be. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
It was just a presentation.
I'm sorry, is there any comments that you would like to add? I know our city planner, Mike Medina, is adding some comments to the need of the city, but is there anything that you would all like to add for your input on the Alameda corridor? No?
Progress is good.
No, I think that in terms of polling, I think that we're all in the consensus. I mean, without taking a vote, but just a poll that the cultural historic facade would be.
And that's the direction that we're.
What are your recommendations, Mike?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So as a function of the urban design, it was a recommendation that ultimately you could make a series of requirements in terms of, from an ordinance perspective, is that we can have an overlay for the appropriate urban design. And I think what TxDOT is looking for is the decision-making and the planning process in terms of the historic Rio Grande or the Franklin. I would also add is that you could change the theme as we move through the corridor. So you could kind of mix up if that's the wish of the council. But I think ultimately what I'm understanding is that the historic one is the theme that the council would recommend along the corridor for this study. Is that correct?
Ms. Villalobos?
And since we're already there, and I know I mentioned it, but just let me express it again. If something can make that Alameda Street go faster, especially peak hours, like he said, coordinate those lights so that we're not sitting there for long periods of times, and then it makes everybody anxious and start to speed, and then there's an accident, and then there's Socorro School with all the traffic they have with the students drop off, et cetera, that become part of the plan as well, since we're already going to be in that phase.
Right, and I guess to borrow on that is that part of the roadway alternatives is that we would certainly make a recommendation for B, and that would be slide 20. So you would preserve a a cross-section that would be comfortable for multimodal transportation. And so certainly is that when you have incident management, where there's a traffic, things of that nature, working with our chief and working with the law enforcement community, is that we can respond to those things. But I think ideally, under the terms of a transportation corridor study, what we're looking for is the collaborative effort between the city and TxDOT. The other recommendation for the intersection improvement as it relates to Loop 375 is Alternative A, and this is what we were referring to as the displaced left turn. So this would be actually the first one here in El Paso, and I think that in terms of funding, it has a lot of opportunity with some of the funding mechanisms that our local MPO has, and then certainly this is a project that, in my experience, would not require a full-blown conforming termination. So if our partners in Austin were to come back and say that this is a good project and they would fund it, I think that the MPO and TxDOT can move quickly on this. With regard to the Rio Vista configuration, is that staff would recommend alternative C. With this configuration is that it would also allow for a multimodal component along with the bus pullouts.
Oh.
And I have recorded the illumination, the mid-block, and the pedestrian sky bridge as well.
Which one was that? I'm sorry, which one is that one that you're saying? Which?
On slide 24, the Rio Vista roadway, the intersection configuration, the recommendation is alternative C. And again, this is just a conceptual corridor study. As we move through time and if funding becomes available through the MPO or other mechanisms, we still require a lot more, if you will, documentation to get the project moving.
Mr. Medina, so that one would be good enough for, of course, our traffic, bike routes and transportation?
Yes.
Or either or?
Yes, both.
So it has both?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is a plus. Okay.
Right, and I think one thing that was mentioned is that there's a canal that abuts the roadway, and so there are plans right now in place to develop what some of our other partners in the downtown area are moving forward with a pedestrian or a trail system, and so we'll also complement that as well.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Do we need to take an action, Jim?
You don't have to the extent Mike is, it sounds like Mike was contemplating submitting proposed revisions or some kind of response, then you might want to authorize him to do that. If council is comfortable with what he just described, you can simply it would be a motion to authorize the city planner to provide the feedback he described to TxDOT.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion at this time to allow planning and zoning to provide the feedback on the study to the Texas Department of Transportation as described by Mr. Medina.
Second.
We have a speaker for this item, Miriam Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I'm surprised that I missed the public meetings because I'm usually pretty good at going to your TxDOT meetings. So I must have missed the first one, but I'm hoping to make out the next ones. I wanted to, as a constituent and probably the only person in the public that was looking at the thing because we know we didn't have, technical difficulties. I wanted to get up and talk about, I know that historical sounds nice, but I actually like the wavy design in the Rio Grande. I think the fact that it's running around next to a canal, the wavy design pattern, thank you, looks very nice. I think it looks distinguished and a little different. So I like that. So I'm picking out from the three. Also to fit a little bit of what El Paso and Socorro means to me. I know that people are sometimes are tired of it, but the stone, a lot of our rock walls are stone, and I think that says something about our place. We don't usually see wooden fences, and so I like stone, and I like that idea of keeping to what we are used to here. The other thing I wanted to mention was, the gateway. Would that be saying, or I wanted to ask, welcome to Alameda or welcome to Socorro?
Ms. Cruz, your time is up.
Thank you.
Tony Rodriguez is absent. Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Jim, one quick question. I have 2 properties on Alameda. Do I need to disclose and recuse myself from voting? Okay. Okay, yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 5, recognition of Socorro High School basketball team.
Hi. While they walk in, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Lisbeth Castro, Recreation Coordinator for the City of Socorro, and I'm here with my director, Victor Reta. We're going to introduce and recognize a few very special members of our community, okay? Let me see. Well, these 2 groups, they're very amazing groups. With their victories, they have not only shown their continuous dedication and passion, but have also shown us the great pride and love that they have for our city. Once they come in, first we're going to go ahead and recognize the Socorro High School basketball team. For the first time in over 20 years, they won their district game against Franklin High School, qualifying them for the playoffs. Now, I am going to ask council to help us recognize the students, so if you guys can stand up. I will be calling them by name. Okay? Okay, first we have Matthew Peña. And if you can hold your applause until the end, that way we can hear all the names. Diego Torres. Brian Martinez. Mike Martinez. Raúl Martinez. Joe Vega. Tony Silva. Mauricio Gonzalez. Jeremiah Sanchez. Gabriel Luna. Eddie Franco. And Sebastián Blancarte. Now we can have the coaching staff, Mr. Roberto Facio, varsity assistant and JV basketball coach. Mr. Edward Martinez, varsity assistant and 9th basketball coach. And Tip McNally, head coach. So we can take a group picture.
I'm gonna need everybody to scooch in real tight. Parents, at this time, if you would like to step forward to get a picture, you are more than welcome to.
Congratulations.
Yes, council and the team.
Congratulations.
Everyone looking at the middle. Ready? 1, 2. Coaches, if you would like to say any words, now would be the perfect time.
Don't. Okay, so can I please have just the following students and the coaches stand in the middle, will remain standing. Mr. Matthew Peña, who was awarded the first team all district for 1-6A boys basketball. Diego Torres, who was awarded second team all district for 1-6A and all defense team. Eddie Franco, awarded second team all district for 1-6A boys basketball. And Jeremiah Sanchez, awarded honorable mention for 1-6A boys basketball.
I'm vertically challenged.
And then before we take pictures, we do have administration and Haggerty in the room. Would you like to come? Sure.
And just for clarification, Mr. Howell.
Politics, I'm sorry. Thought about Melissa Haggerty there. Okay, let me get it. Mr. Hamilton, would you like to share a few words?
I just want to thank the young men for all their hard work throughout the season, the coaches for supporting their young men and working with them day in and day out, on the court and in the classroom, athletically and academically, and the parents for your support. 20 years, amazing to see this group of young men throughout the season get to come and see their games, and appreciate everybody here tonight. Thanks for inviting us.
What does say Socorro? ¿Qué decía Leila?
Very quickly, I think that all of this, we tell parents too, all of this is a family affair. They don't do this without the parents. So I think the parents, I think we all owe our parents. Brothers, sisters, grandparents, everybody. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Item number 6, recognition of Socorro High School Mariachi.
At this time, we will recognize the Socorro High School Mariachi, Los Gavilanes, who got UIL highest rating of superior at the state UIL Mariachi Championship and brought home 15 outstanding individual musicianship awards. Again, if we can have council help us. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call out the students as they were given to me. Edward Bautista. Giovanni Betances. Jennifer Betancourt. Jocelyn Betancourt. Nicolette Brilliant. Jose Chavez. Jessica Delgado. Areli Grajeda. Dorothy Macias, Eric Morales, Ángela Morán, Cynthia Moreno, José Pompa, Steve Ramírez, Pablo Rosas, Ángel Sánchez, Edel Terrazas, and Jesus Torres. Now, will the band directors join us to receive a token of appreciation? We have Roger Rosales, Jose Parada, and Juan Gonzalez. And if we can get a group picture with council? Thank you.
Victor has a function on Monday, San Vicente.
Una canción. Una canción. Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Moving on to item number 12, discussion and action regarding Wright and Dalvin Architect and Engineering Services.
Motion to approve for discussion?
Second.
Good afternoon, City Council. Victoretta, Director of Recreation. I have very good news. We did meet with the National Trust for Historic Preservation as well as the Texas Historical Commission. We have officially finished phase 1 of the Rio Vista Capital Project, which was emergency stabilization. So we came to a very pivotal role in our project. We met, we assessed from people from Austin as well as Houston. They came down to the city at no expense to us. They're our partners on this project to ensure that we do it correctly and within the right government regulations for historic preservation. Upon the time of our assessment and figuring out that we have correctly succeeded in completing emergency stabilization, we have come to see that our scope of work, which we originally bid, is not in compliance, meaning what we published for bid is no longer what's needed on the project. So in order to comply with our procurement process, we're going to ask that we go ahead and opt out of the contract with Wright and Dalvin, which we've met with our legal team already, and we're within our right to do so, just because the things that we need are no longer in the original bid that we set out for, which is important to know before more work continues. Yes.
Mr. Perez?
So this particular company could,
So what would happen?
Bid.
So what would happen was they're still eligible to come back and rebid, but what we need to do to be responsible and good stewards of the project is to correctly publish what the needs of the project are now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez is absent.
Okay. No problem. So I'll go ahead and amend my motion to allow for the opt-out opting out of the contract? For the convenience of the city.
Second.
Any speakers?
Cesar, sorry, Rene Rodriguez is absent. Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Real quick, there were no speakers?
No.
Okay. Aye.
And Yvonne Colombia Lopez?
Yes.
Item number 13, discussion and action regarding Information Matrix TV.
City Council, what you have before you was what we were going to put on the screen for you. We were reached out by this company, a public television company that does public programming for Information Matrix. Do you all have the packet? Okay. So that way you can follow along as I discuss this. What they provide is actual public programming that goes out to all major stations, and they actually do kind of profiles on cities. They focus on livability, walkability, sustainability types of projects, and they inquired if Socorro would be interested in joining their programming. So they do professional videography, cinematography, and they do online-based promotions as well as on major television networks. It is a $250,000 project. The expense of the city, however, would only be $26,000 with final costs, because we do pay for some of the travel for the equipment and the actual videographers, and then some of the production, and we would keep ownership of the production. This is a very unique opportunity. It was something that Ms. Rodarte and I felt should be discussed before council to go ahead and get your input. It's not at the caliber that we could produce internally and for the city or locally. This would be someone that actually is Lawrence Fishburne narrating the actual project. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lawrence Fishburne, but he is the gentleman that's depicted on that project.
He's Morpheus.
Yes, he is. And so he would be a celebrity endorsement to the city of Socorro that would actually do an intro and an outro for the actual filming of the project that would air.
Ms. Elvas?
What I before you ask a question, what I could do is maybe play the video and you could hear it. Would that be helpful? Because I know you can't see it.
Sure.
Tiene mucha sal.
Oh, I know.
En la noche vas a sufrir.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Fishburne. Many social issues come and go, but there's one that always remains on the radar: diversity. While we've made great strides, there is always room for improvement. Advocates who are steadfast in their mission for inclusion can be found in just about every industry, as we're about to see.
Southwest has been in business for almost 45 years and has been dedicated to diversity from the very beginning. One of the things that we were founded on was the premise that it was not affordable for most Americans to fly. And so it was our desire to democratize the skies, to make flying affordable for everyone. And by that very act, truly pursue diversity. I'm very proud of that. And our employees are very, very proud of that.
I'm a customer service agent for about 15 years with the company. As we know, Southwest Airlines continued to grow and has expanded service to international markets.
I'm extremely grateful to welcome you on this historic flight to Costa Rica.
We are dedicated to learning about the different cultures on the markets we serve, so we can continue to provide the legendary customer service for which Southwest is known.
In order to serve customers well, our employees need to embrace diversity, and then our employees need to be a reflection of the society and of the customers that we serve.
At Southwest Airlines, we have a number of women who are vice presidents of technology. We have women who are captains within our pilot group. We have women and minorities in positions that have never had that opportunity before. I was the first African American officer here at Southwest Airlines and have had the opportunity to mentor and sponsor other underrepresented talent.
The other thing that is very special about Southwest Airlines is that we have a very unique culture. And it's a culture that's really founded on the importance of people and the individual and allowing people to be themselves. So by definition, you know that people are going to come from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different religions, different cultures, and we want everybody to be themselves. We want everybody to take care of each other, and then in turn, we want to make sure that we take the best care we can of all of our customers. So it's really a part of who we are and always has been.
You know, we do a great job recruiting for inclusion and diversity with the Women in Aviation Group, which is an organization originally founded just to enhance women in the aviation field, from pilots to maintenance to dispatchers to air traffic controllers. So that has been a huge part of Southwest in their recruiting as long as I've been here, 20 years.
Been very happy to work with the company for all these years. One of my keys for customer service is just to be loyal to our customers. We give the best every single day. With this new international service, I am very excited and very happy that we can make those customers feel at home. You know, make those customers to feel like they deserve good service, and I'm very happy that this is happening, and I'm leaving this moment with the company for that. So,
diversity and inclusion is important in the workplace from an employer's perspective because the world is diverse. So in order to serve customers well, our employees need to embrace that diversity, and then our employees need to be a reflection of the society, of the environment, and of the customers that we serve. What is often a challenge, though, is to break down barriers. Embracing diversity is one thing, but then actually including people is a huge challenge.
So it's important to have what I call is a truly inclusive work environment where individuals coming in feel that they are recognized, that they are valued and appreciated, and we celebrate them in the way that they like to be celebrated.
The dedication to people, I think, has been proven many times over almost 5 decades. We've never had a layoff. We've never had a pay cut in an industry that is notorious for that, as well as bankruptcies. And the culture is famous at Southwest Airlines. It's not about just having celebrations and just having recognitions and awards. It's really more about proving to each other that we really care and that we really do embrace diversity, and we really open doors and try very hard to include everyone.
There are cultures, backgrounds, experiences that will make a marked difference when we open our eyes and our hearts to receive what other individuals are bringing forward. It takes all of us together to be the most successful that we can be.
We hope this program has served as an inspiration to you. Be sure to join us next time as we continue to profile the people and organizations impacting the world. I'm Lawrence Fishburne.
So that typically is when one segment would be like, I really wish you could have seen it. But this was specifically to Southwest, and the producer, Anthony, who reached out to us, recommended that we show you two. This one was specifically for corporate development on inclusiveness and diversity and recruitment. Whereas the next video I can show you, with your permission, would be on historic preservation and economic development. The idea here would be for a city such as New York that you're going to hear in a few minutes, they took a historic hotel and turned it into an adaptive reuse model. So a lot of cities similar to this actually use it for heritage and tourism or for recruitment of businesses for economic development.
One of the great things that's happened in New York over the last 15 years is it has become increasingly popular as a visitor destination. Every year we've been experiencing record arrivals of visitors from the United States, but also from around the world. So last year that was about 8.5 million visitors, spending about $10 billion in New York City alone last year.
It's always good to be a benchmark. It is always good to be a pace car. It's always good to be studied in some way because the subtle difference is noticeable. So the adaptation of the next generation, the next renaissance of this area, the Grand Dame effect will never be lost.
New York's notoriety as a luxury destination for its shopping, for its arts, its culture, and its great hotels is now known around the world.
The Knickerbocker's in the most famous address of the world, 42nd and Broadway. It doesn't get any more Manhattan than that. The Knickerbocker is a national landmark, and its design intent back then is embraced, from the copper balustrades to, if you even look up, you'll see even cherubs in the window detail. Juliet balconies, red brick, it's almost Versailles, it's very rich. It has undertones of notables like the Waldorf Astoria and all stately buildings in New York.
In the early 20th century, Times Square in New York City played host to the epitome of luxurious living, the legendary Knickerbocker Hotel.
Luxury was so defined back in the turn of the century. You know, with the Astors, with the Rockefellers, it was its own society. High society was clearly differentiated from the rest of the public. We were a stop between Grand Central Station and Central Park. Our lobby was a subway stop. A subway was unheard of. This underground train was this pioneering effort in the late 1800s, basically funded by John Jacob Astor. The Knickerbocker had champagne-only signs. Champagne was definitely a luxury not afforded by any common man. So there's so many stories once you start peeling back the onion and really researching the magnitude of this address that it's really astonishing.
From its iconic location at 42nd and Broadway in the greatest city in the world to its storied history, the Knickerbocker does a fantastic job of integrating and celebrating that history, but bringing to life the amenities and comforts that today's traveler has come to expect, and maybe even a few they haven't.
Knickerbocker has always been at the center of Times Square. So as Times Square has gone, the Knickerbocker has gone. And there was a period where its past and its glory as this incredible architectural asset, as this amazing, distinctive hotel, it had really been forgotten.
By 1920, Prohibition had killed the Knickerbocker buzz and the hotel doors were shut. However, its spirit lived on, and it's been recently resurrected to reclaim its role as a premier Manhattan luxury hotel.
So one of the interesting things that we've seen happen in the last few years, as the office buildings around us have been filled with first-rate financial services firms, accounting firms, law firms, is that there's a different kind of clientele coming to Times Square. There are high-end business people who are looking for an elegant experience, who want to be right next to Times Square, but maybe not right in the middle of it. And a place like this, I think, is really going to resonate and meet a really important unmet need that has only partially been recognized in recent years.
The history of Times Square has gone full 360 almost. Basically, it was predestined to be the center of luxury. with notable monikers such as the Great White Way that evolved into the crossroads of the world, that evolved into the center of the universe. Geographically, east, west, north, south, it is the center of Manhattan. So it seems fitting that this renaissance, so to speak, is come full circle with this new development of luxury here in Times Square.
At the Knickerbocker, guests enjoy a state-of-the-art fitness center offering cutting-edge classes and personalized instruction, as well as a curated selection of spa and fashion experiences. With elegance and an air of timeless authenticity, the legacy of New York's golden age.
So that was at 5 minutes. So they're pretty lengthy segments. Like I said, they're based on heritage tourism, economic development, or recruitment. It's pretty much up to the city on which avenue they'd like to pursue. The producer was really intrigued by all the Dropbox links that we're able to send them regarding our events, such as the Color Run, National Night Out, Winter Festival. So they've seen all of our quality of life campaigns. And he did put in his email that he felt like it was a really great place to showcase livability for new and existing families. Especially, we mentioned the Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road and all the potential that that's going to bring. So me and Mr. Rodarte met with him, and we felt it was best for us to bring this up to council's attention to be aware of the opportunity that was presented to us.
Mr. Perez?
You said that it was over a $250,000 product.
Yes, correct.
And that we would have it at.
We would only pay for a portion of that, which would be about $27,000, depending on travel for the weight of the equipment. That's what would be the variable.
Okay, so then, is there any other catch? Anything? I mean, what is their return? What is their interest or investment?
So because it's public television, they're required to go out and spend some of the federal funding on capturing public television.
Oh, okay.
What we can do is what we talked about was presenting this to council, getting direction from the council. I do have a conference call in with Anthony tomorrow to discuss what was discussed here at the meeting, and then go forward from there.
Do you have an, I guess, a feeling one or the other of what we would need to pursue? I mean, what would be the most advantageous for the city?
We're in a really unique position to where we can pursue any avenue. As the marketing, as a staff recommendation, I feel there's a lot of potential in helping economic development with city planning. We can attract businesses, whether it's commercial, national chains. There's so much opportunity on that avenue. There's, again, I'm not gonna be biased and say that the Mission Trail isn't also a unique gem. There's literally so much that we can tackle. And that could be the beauty of this, is that maybe we spin it and we do a little bit of everything, and we kind of do a Visit Socorro, whether it's Visit Socorro to have a business or Visit Socorro to live.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I'm your #1 supporter on this. I've been saying television, 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 not just for our economic development, but to get our cleanups and whatever it is that we need here in Socorro, our people to know what's coming up, et cetera, because we have a huge base of elderly who do not use internet, okay? But they do watch a lot of TV.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern, and I love it, economic development, you know, that's one of my passions here as an administration. The only thing that holds me back from that, are we ready with our ordinances for economic development? I know we have talked about it and said that there's several issues that we have that do not favor the city and just cause more cost to the city.
I think it's in its relationship to the ordinances. There are mechanisms in place to encourage economic development. What I would comment is that I think that we need to revisit policies that either this body or a previous body has adopted.
And that's what I meant. I'm sorry. I meant the policies that are in place at, you know, at the time, right now. I don't know if we're ready for a new company to come in here and be a two-sided, ¿cómo se dice? I have it at the tip of my tongue. Help me out, nobody?
You mean put the cart before the horse kind of deal?
Well, no, but that it benefits both, you know, them and ourselves. ourselves being the constituents of Socorro.
Right, and I guess I would, just elaborate in terms of when you're attracting economic development from a marketing perspective and then actually going in and talking about any abatement, any type of tax incentive, it's a little bit more complicated. But I think certainly is that if there's a desire for planning and zoning to look at an approach of where the appropriate areas for economic development could be, we can certainly do that.
I think.
Mr. Perez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what Ms. Colombia Lobos may be asking is that are we far enough with the code modifications to where if we have an influx of business investments or individual companies that our processes won't be overwhelmed and our staff won't be overwhelmed?
Well, I would say that, there's never an ideal situation.
Right.
And so, my observation here, and we brought it before you all, is to get a vendor to help us with staffing. And so in terms of processing, I think that we could handle the flow now that you all have allowed us to go in that direction. But I think one of the unique things that is in the code is the plan unit development. And then of course, by ordinance, we can always create a special district. So there are tools out there that will allow the body to move forward in the event that something like this comes to fruition.
In order, I apologize, am I in front of you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. In order to accomplish something like what you're talking about, we never meet after, from here. Is it best that, you set aside a time, maybe once a week, twice a month, so we could go over what we need to move on forward with economic development or any other area that you see that we should be moving forward and changing, because you're at the core. We're not. We're out here, and what comes in, what goes out, what policy doesn't make sense, what policy does not benefit both parties.
Right, so I think what I would suggest are two things, is that certainly through the city manager, we can meet individually, or we can have an open forum through a workshop to discuss those matters. Again, I'm here at the disposal of you all. So I think that in order to advance the municipality in terms of economic development, it's at your disposal.
Okay, I think that's something that we need to think about.
Mr. Duran?
We need to showcase Socorro, number one. And the only way to do it is with a professionally done video. I went to a meeting in Las Cruces, and they were having everybody go around and give a little bit about their city. Vinton had a very professional video. It came to Socorro, and it's like, we have missions, we have the bracero housing, and that was it. This would give us something that we could take with us to showcase our city, and then plus when we go out to attract new businesses, we can send a video and not just an email saying, we want you in our town. This is what we have, this is what we have to offer, and then also for attracting more rooftops. This is the place you want to be because of all the things that we have to offer, and it would showcase it.
Mr. Arte?
And just to add is the time is now. With Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road, we have new developers here knocking on our door. So either we're ready or not, we have to get ourselves ready because the time is now.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I think it would, and I'm not trying to be political, outside from this, but I think it would show that we are not a city that is in danger. We are a safe city. And when it was said that our city was not safe, I felt about our economic development just went down the drain. Everything we've been trying to accomplish up here. And so this video, again, would definitely show that, we are good people, we're a safe city, and
we're growing.
And we're growing. And just the other day, at the Greater Association of Realtors, there was Mr. Police officer for the county. He's been with them for 33 years. And he mentioned, they asked him about the wall, and he says, the wall will do nothing for us. But I will tell you something. He said, since 2003 years back, he stated that the city of El Paso has safety has grown 71%. 71%. And for somebody to come here or for somebody big to come and say that we're not a safe city, this will definitely show that we are and that we're real people and that we work hard. So yes.
Mr. Perez?
No, what would be the appropriate motion to move this forward, Jim?
Depends on what you want to do.
Everything.
All right.
Victor, what is the proposal that the city commit
Yes,
funding for this?
commit to being part of their programming, and then what I would do is request a contract be presented to our legal for review before being presented to City Council for approval.
Yeah, I would say if it still contemplates a contract later, I'd want to see it before I tell you yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I would say for now, just instruct the director to proceed to provide an affirmative response to the inquiry and proceed with contract negotiation.
All right, so I'll go ahead and make a motion at this time to direct staff to proceed by giving the, information matrix organization an affirmative answer in our participation, and to have any legal documents reviewed by council or legal counsel.
Second.
Mayor, we have a speaker on this item? Ms. Cruz?
Thought I hadn't signed up. The only thing I'll say is I didn't think this was going to go this way, which is why I thought I didn't sign up. It seems like a great opportunity. It really does. The only thing that, again, as a constituent, the cost. I know it seems that we're saving a lot of money, and I don't know, a lot of good things have been brought up, so I guess I changed my mind as when it was first presented. So thank you for talking it out. I appreciate that, because that actually helped me change my viewpoint.
Thank you for
So I
letting
appreciate
us
you
know.
guys doing that. Thank you.
For letting us know.
Yes.
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 Item number 16, discussion and action on the approval request to accept the proposed replat for Hueco Junction Unit 1, being a replat of a portion of tracks 12A and 12C, Block 5, Socorro Grant and Lot 1, Block 2, East Lake Valley Subdivision, located at the intersection of Old Hueco Tanks Road and Nuevo Hueco Tanks Boulevard.
On this request, you're gonna see in your backup material, you have two little plats. One of them, and it's unfortunate we can't show it on the screen, but one of them, right next to the scale, you're gonna see where it says final plat, and the other one is showing the preliminary plat.
Your time's up, sorry.
Okay. So what they're proposing here is they want to create 3 lots. By doing this, they're going to have to vacate a portion of the old Hueco Tanks Road. This replat is located right at the intersection of Old Hueco Tanks Road and the Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. The existing condition is where the 2 roadways meet, they meet in a Y angle. So with this replat, they're gonna reroute the new road to align with the subdivision that has been approved and is currently being developed. And then it's gonna intersect the Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road in a 90-degree angle, right where the median is on the new project. With this, the city would be, it requires that the city vacates a portion of the old Hueco Tanks Road. It's approximately 0.23 acres that they're gonna be vacating. And with this new replat, the city will gain 0.23 acres. Plus, one of the developers, the one who owns the property on the south, agreed to improve a portion of the old Hueco Tanks Road to make it better as the traffic approaches the new subdivision. And that's no cost to the city. He just agreed to make it better just for the approach. So the lots that they're proposing is, one of them will have 1.14 acres The other one, lot number 2 would have 0.95, and lot number 3 will have 0.89 acres. All 3 lots would be used for commercial use.
Ms. Villalobos?
You mentioned that one of the owners of that one lot is willing to improve, but what do we mean improve? What are the improvements that we're talking about?
So when he talks about improvements, the way the old Hueco Tanks is right now, it's an old, dilapidated, substandard road. So he's gonna fix it and make it nice. We don't know the details of how much he's gonna either provide sidewalks, driveways. We don't know how much he's gonna put into that little section of land. The portion of land we're talking about is the area where the Nuevo Hueco Junction is, all the way to the Juan de Herrera lateral. So he just mentioned to us that he's gonna make it look nice. But we don't know if he's gonna be putting sidewalks. On the new roadway, the one that is gonna be joining the Nuevo Hueco Tanks, that one's gonna have the complete infrastructure, sidewalks, curbs, asphalt pavement, and it's gonna be draining into one of the ponding areas here.
Mr. Perez?
Joe, does this, and it's been a while since we've talked about this, does this in any way impact those residents that were landlocked?
No. No, we've had several meetings. This replat is on the opposite side from where the properties that are landlocked are.
Okay.
In the future, they're gonna expand the new subdivision towards the landlocked properties, and that one's coming soon. You're gonna see that in the next couple months.
Okay.
But for now, this replat is on the opposite side. It doesn't impact anybody. It's gonna make the flow of traffic safer.
Okay.
As they approach to the new roadway.
Ms. Villalobos?
Joe, not to be difficult, but one of the things that we need to, I believe, and I hope I'm not out of bound, so we're not running into the same problems we are running with the other subdivisions, is that when they say they improve, to get it in writing, what exactly do they mean improve? Because in my line of work, improve can be a tree. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if we could get it in writing, so we're not running into these problems anymore. You know, yes, we love improvement. We love that the people that are coming here to build and develop are assisting or helping or trying to make the city or our city look better. But when we don't have the actual wording of what they're going to do, it hurts us in the long run.
Yes, that's something that we're gonna need to discuss with the developer to give us the specific details. We are gonna bring this item in the following meeting because we still need to present the quitclaim deed that is part of this project. For now, they're asking for the approval of the replat, and then on the next meeting, we're gonna present to you, and you already approved the introduction. On the second reading, we're gonna give you more details and more information about what they're proposing to improve.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a
I'll
motion?
go ahead and make a motion to approve. Excuse me. Item number 16.
Mayor, can I for one thing? And it's not really a legal issue, but there was a time in my life when I was doing more than just legal work for the city of Socorro. For three and a half years, I was tasked by council to bird dog the property acquisition of the property that was necessary for Old Hueco Tanks for that project. I did, and there was a series of agreements. I'm not sure anybody here was on council at the time. There was a series of agreements that we went through with all the landowners along the corridor where they conveyed one way or another the property to the city for the project. And my point with that is these landowners, El Paso Camas, told us back then and gave us years of advance notice that this is what they were planning to do eventually. And in exchange for conveying the property to us for a song, our response was, well, we can't commit that we'll approve it now because we don't know what the exact terms are. But our commitment, and I think it's in the documents where it was, we'll be as flexible with you as we can when that time comes.
So, all right.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I just wanted to mention two things that were talked about during the Planning and Zoning Commission, because even though they recommended approval, this was something that was talked about at length, which was Old Hueco tanks in front of St. Peter and Paul, that connecting into that subdivision. They were only willing to improve to the first canal, I believe, and so there was going to be this gap of road that the city later would have to hopefully improve. And it's actually, if you guys have ever gone down that road, which I have, it's probably the worst part of the road, or one of the worst parts, where there's no longer any, it's lots of holes, and it's in really bad condition. So anyway, that was something that was talked about. Why wouldn't they be able to connect all the way to where the road is actually already done? If they could improve it up to, you know, where it would make sense, where wouldn't there just be this gap of like a really bad improved street. And then the other thing was that I don't remember Mr. Terrazas there being a talk about Socorro gaining 0.23 acres. And I know we don't have the screen, but could you explain that? Because I don't remember that from the committee, and maybe it's just my bad memory. Could you explain how we're giving up 0.23 and how we're getting, or the city's getting 0.23, please? Thank you.
Okay, so
Mr. Terrazas, at this time, we're going to go ahead and take the vote.
I would like to hear what this is all about. It's good information, because that gap could cost the city money in the long run, or cause danger. We don't know.
Are we going to have more detail on the next? Okay.
And when we go to the next meeting, is it for voting to move forward or to accept? Or is it?
It's to accept the ordinance along with a quitclaim deed, and the recommendation today is to accept the plat with a condition that they record the quitclaim deed before they record the plat.
Okay. Well, it would be nice to have the information up front, I think. So again, we're not running into the problems that we're always running into, Ms. Mayor, with the other subdivisions, because we're ill-informed sometimes. And I don't think it would hurt to, and I don't know what my councilmen think here about this.
I'm
forgetting detail. The next meeting.
René Rodriguez is absent. Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Iván Colo Villalobos.
What a shame, because this is why we run into those problems. Yeah, I guess so, yes.
Item number 17, discussion and action to approve proposed development agreement for Vista Bonita Estates.
May I approach Mr. Martinez real quick?
Do we have a motion for item 17?
Right now, I'll approve, well, excuse me, I'll motion to approve for discussion purposes.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, I should have informed the council. I would ask the council to postpone this item one more time. If I made contact with the developer's lawyer, needed one piece of information from me, I got it today, I'll pay that.
All right, so at this time, I'll go ahead and rescind my motion and motion for the item to be postponed.
Second.
Mayor, we have two speakers for this item. Bernie Sarcito.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I think that we have worked with this developer long enough. We've given him every opportunity for what we have requested. And here we are postponing and postponing and postponing and giving him the benefit of the doubt when he is proposing to make a development with the bare minimal essentials for this development. We don't need this in our community. We saw the children, or the young people, men and women that come out. We're very proud of our community. and we need to extend this. Let me give you an analogy of a bicycle chain. We have this bicycle chain, and without that one link, it will not work. And I'm thinking that we're throwing this into our city ordinances, first of all, into our community. We need to get away from that and improve. You saw our children coming out tonight. I was so proud of them. And I don't even have children in Socorro. I think that we need to stay in that direction and have more benefits for our children. The developer is proposing to come out with zero ponding, zero sidewalks for the children to walk on safely. All they're proposing is streets and self-ponding, the bare minimums. Thank you so much, Ms. Navarro.
I'd like to yield my time to my cousin.
Mr. Martinez, can we do that?
No, I don't think you can because the ordinance says that it's per speaker, so no. Yeah, you can always suspend the rule. I think that's the
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Salcedo to proceed.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duran. I can't stress enough, really I can't. I'm at a loss of words now, going on for 4 years almost. Let's move forward. Let's make these improvements and quit trying to reinvent the wheel at a later date and make changes to the ordinances. I don't see where the city will benefit anything from this development. If the agreement, I don't know if you all even had a chance to look at the agreement. I have, and I've looked at it over and over, and what they're proposing is that we're gonna have additional cost. Therefore, down the road, we'll have a tax increase because we need to make commitments of $258,000 for road improvements where they're gonna meet us halfway, a rock wall that they're gonna meet us halfway. They're not even proposing a sidewalk on this entrance road. I don't see where the city of Socorro will benefit from this development. I honestly don't. I think that we're in a position where we can make a decision, vote, and deny them. Because we're not going to benefit anything from it. They won't have any recreational areas for the children to play with, to grow up healthy. With the Zika virus and all those other 4 diseases with mosquitoes. I know, I live there. I know, I brought pictures of ponding whenever it rained 2 years ago. I brought all those pictures of standing water for over 3 weeks. It's nothing but hard pancake clay soil. The water will have to evaporate. There's nowhere for the water to go. I think we really, this is our opportunity. And excuse me for being so stressful about this. I just don't want to repeat and go back to the 1950s. Which is what's happening in reality. They have an opportunity to say, I'll build the sidewalks, we'll build curbs, we'll have drainage, like what we have in the city of Socorro. We don't need to extend that further out and have those types of hazards down the road for our community. Thank you so much for listening to me. I know I've been up here on the bandwagon for years and years, and I just feel very strongly about this, against this. Why have they come and compromised and said, let's build the sidewalks, let's build the curbs, let's build the drainage, the ponding? No, they want to do the bare minimum and get by with that. I think those days are of yesterday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to add, as a real estate agent who sold a property right next to that property a year ago, February of 2018. and that property was worth about 150. Since Icon has built their $350,000 homes, those lots have gone up, way up. She refinanced her house, and it appraised a year later, 11 months later, at 285. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because of that development that Icon built right next to her property, which is Clint. On one side, she has the FM Road, near FM Road, and on the other side is this development. Those lots are going to be worth a lot more. And so I want you to consider, before you vote, what the city is going to incur when this development starts. If you have not seen Angels Park, I suggest that you look at Angels Park, because this is exactly what they're proposing. It's an eyesore. And I think we've said that over and over. And we're going to incur the cost to keep up with this development. And I don't think it's worth it. Thank you.
I had a question.
Oh, Mr. Perez?
Mr. Martinez, so at what point do we say, yeah? I mean, because we have, to Salcido's point, we've been going back and forth on this for.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is you could do it now. The status, procedurally, the status is, don't forget, the plat's been approved. There's a final plat that's approved, subject to the execution of a development agreement. And that's what we've been going back and forth on forever. And I think your administration decided at least 4 or 5 months ago, tell me if I'm wrong, that we were done negotiating. They were done negotiating. There's nothing, that's the last deal. It's taking too long, and that's the most we're gonna get. We're done. And I communicated that to the developer's lawyer. And I had a discussion with her yesterday, and it was clear from the discussion that she appreciated that. She understood our position. And again, she asked me for one piece of information about the plat. I got that today.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, to be clear. It was clear she understood our position. She said she would talk to her clients. And I said, look, I'm not gonna take it to council until you guys sign it. I'm gonna have it in hand, signed by you, and council can decide whether or not they agree with it. But we're not gonna be the first ones, and then waiting on you to sign, which I advise against that. I don't think a procedure that's good for a public body. And so my point was, I communicated that to her. She said she'd get that back to her clients, and I said I'd get back to her as soon as I got that one piece of information. I got that today, and I sent it back to her. It was after hours, but I haven't heard back.
Because I think at least I know, we're at the point where, you know, and I don't know what we have in terms of leverage, because we already have a final plat.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is if there is no agreement, there is no development agreement, there's no approved plat. I mean, the plat was approved subject to this agreement. If that's a contingency. If it doesn't happen, there is no approved plat. I will tell you, don't expect the developer to agree to that position. I think that's the law, and I think that's where we stand. I have every expectation, if we communicate that to the developer, if it does fall apart, the developer is going to take the position that, well, no, that's not really what happened. It was finally approved, and we're in total compliance. You would have had to approve it anyway by operation of law, and then we have, we can work it out at the courthouse over the next few years. But my point is, in lieu of that, and look, if I had reached the point where I thought it was advantageous to the city to tell them it's rejected, we're not waiting anymore, go away, I would tell you. I'm not there yet. I'm out of patience, but my advice to you is, ask for one piece of information. It was a fair inquiry. I didn't know the answer off the top of my head. I got it from planning today. We get it back to them, and then I'll hopefully get their signature on it, bring it back to council, and council can decide whether or not it wishes to approve that agreement or not.
All right, so my motion stands.
Ralph Luna?
Yes.
Victor Perez? No, you have already voted.
Okay.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 18, Discussion and action to hire Marisa Marquez Forma Group LLC to provide the city a valued approach to representation during the 2019 legislative session and authorize city manager or her designee to finalize contract.
I would make the recommendation to deny this at this time. My rationale would be that it's a little late, and so I'd rather just make sure that we do this with a little more time on our side, and either get this, whether it's this organization or another organization, but at least we can sift through other RFQs or RFPs, whatever we use.
Second.
Mr. Duran?
At the training that we just came back from, there was a segment on the legislature. I talked to Shannon Igo, who's the Deputy Executive Director of Legislative Services today, and I told her what we were going to be voting on or trying to vote on tonight. And right now, through TML, we have a lobbyist. They're lobbying for pretty much everything small cities are asking for. But she said that with big cities, they hire a lobbyist for specific items. And what they're lobbying for is that small cities should be the ones to govern our cities. We're not looking for the state to tell us how to run our cities. And the filing deadline for all bills is tomorrow. So even, we don't even know what we want from the legislature. So tomorrow's the deadline. And then through one of the meetings, the gentleman that was conducting it says that the best lobbyists are right here. We represent a lot of people. And that's what the legislature listens to, is people who represent a lot of people. So I think that if we find items that we think are advantageous to Socorro, I think we should contact our local legislators and let them know what we think on that item. Because there's a lot of items that they're looking at that are just crazy. I'll just give you a couple of them. House Bill 1105 by Congressman Lambert. They want to have no regulation on chicken eggs. You believe that? This is actual bill before the legislature. Senate Bill 86 by Hall. They want to allow us up to 6 chickens.
They want to put
6 chickens. But the worst one is House Bill 420, that a city can't regulate how many rabbit carcasses you have in your freezer.
How many what?
Rabbit carcasses.
How many can you have?
Right now it's at 500.
In the freezer.
But they want to take that regulation away so you can have as many as you want. And this is what we were laughing at.
Somebody likes rabbits too?
Well, Hassenpfeffer I love, okay? But the people that we talked to up there, they were like, we have a lobbyist already through TML. And she said, she gave me her personal number. I can give it to anybody. If we have any questions on any legislation, to call her. And my time up? Yes. And also, there's also on the TML website, there's legislative updates where you can go through and you can see what bills are going through and what bills that would affect our city, and we can call our legislators and let them know, hey, we either want this or don't want this. Because there's bills that are going to eliminate COs by council. It would have to go to the voters. There's bills they want to cap the rollback rate at 2.5%. And that one, our governor and our lieutenant governor are pushing very, very hard for. So I think we need to look at what we want for our city, and then each of us commit to contacting our legislator and telling them, we don't want that. We don't want Austin telling us how to run our city. we know our city better than anybody, and we should be the ones to make the decisions on how our city is run. So I do back up Mr. Pettis in thinking that this is too soon. I don't even think we need a lobbyist company. I think that we have lobbyists already working for us through TML, and I think we should use that and to get whatever we want moving forward.
Ms. Villalobos?
And he is correct, and I just wanted to add to it. In order, unfortunately, it takes you being in their faces in person. That's one of the things that they said. For them to know who you are and that you're there to fight for something, for them to actually listen to you. I understand Mr. Duran just said that we would, call them, that's fine, but to actually be there in their faces, talking to them about who your city is would be much beneficial for the city. So for your city is what they said.
Mr. Perez?
I just want to clarify. I'm of two perspectives. Yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I think also what we need to be aware is that we are at a point where we have specific needs as a community, and those aren't always articulated in what the legislature that is being proposed. And so I think that we owe it to ourselves to at least investigate and see if it is possible to have a lobbyist or an advocacy group, whatever you want to call them, so that we can formulate those strategies that affect our area specifically, and we can join forces with other governing entities in the county of El Paso, so that we can double our power or pool our power, so to speak. So that way, it's much like the MPO. You support, 1 year we support Socorro, 1 year we support, maybe El Paso County, but it's to be able to have projects that will benefit the entire region. And so I think that if we look at that, I think our community would be better served, not to just, dispose of or just put by the wayside the idea of having an advocacy group. I think we need to consider it because we're at the point where, and I've said it before, we're going through growing pains, and I think we need to at least look at that. My 2 cents.
Mr. Duran?
She did address that, and she said that they are at our disposal. Anything that concerns us, she gave me her personal cell number. She said, call me. I will, go through anything that's before the legislature now, and then later on, when it's over and there's new between the 2 years, they can help us formulate what will help us the most. And the last meeting, Mr. Perez, you did make a comment. We were lifted and we were inspired. Just to just to let you know, we were. Yes. Okay. I'm just letting you know.
It's easier to lift us. Well, not me.
Ms. Villalobos?
And Mr. Duran is correct. If we're already paying TML and they're there for us, I believe that we should explore that possibility.
It's a resource.
Right. First, before we decide to spend money elsewhere.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 20, discussion and action to approve the appointment of Albert Ortiz as a 911 volunteer representative for the city of Socorro, Texas.
So I brought this item up because Mr. Ortiz reached out to me and stated, this is before we hired our new chief, welcome. And he reached out to me and told me that we didn't have representation for 911 currently, and there was a lot of great issues coming up and a lot of opportunities for the city of Socorro to benefit from it, from different aspects that the city needs. And so this is why I put this agenda on the item. I want to read what I read. I know you haven't had the opportunity to see it, but I said, Mr. Ortiz, a married man, has been a resident of Socorro since 1986 and once served as an EMS staffer for 19 years from May 1st, 1989 to April 8, 2008. In addition, currently works as a works part-time for the Sunset Funeral Homes as a funeral attendee since 2007. Throughout the years, Mr. Ortiz has independently attended the 911 public meeting and is familiar with the process and upcoming events that could extremely benefit the city of Socorro. It would be an honor to have this lifetime humanitarian local representative for the city of Socorro, Texas, as a 911 representative. Currently, the city has no official representation. However, now that we have chief, I was not aware that primarily that's who is the representative. So we're asking for, in this case, Mr. Rodarte, we're asking for Mr. Ortiz to work side by side or as a volunteer with our chief of police.
Correct. What's been offered is that if we appoint Chief Burton, he can meet monthly with Mr. Ortiz and work together to whatever they want to bring to the board. I know Mr. Ortiz attends the meetings, so they can work together to bring up issues or concerns to the 911 board. I know that me and Mr. Ortiz are going to work together on the RFQ for ambulance services because he does bring a lot of knowledge to the table, and I like to pick his brain here and there because he does have a lot of experience and brings information to us. And one of the things is that we need to work with our community because by ourselves we can't do it alone. So I think that he would be actually very helpful for Chief Burton now that he's getting acclimated with the city of Socorro. However, the 911 does prefer someone that works in the department, but council does have the decision to appoint anyone.
So not to confuse anybody, but one's a volunteer and one's actually the appointee.
If I may say something, not in it for the money, like I told, it was for volunteer because through the years I saw how down there at 911, really, Socorro, the call takers and everything, they sort of like, that's Socorro, that's a Lower Valley. And me being from here, I thought that wasn't right. And I saw, since sometimes we didn't have this representatives go down there, sometimes we'd have a dispatcher go down there, a lot of little things were bypassed because there was no representative. So nobody goes down there. It's like people don't come here to hear things, and they say, "Oh, what happened? What do you mean that passed?" Well, you should have been at the meeting, right? The same thing happened with 911. A lot of things could have, so ayudar a Socorro, would have helped Socorro PD or even fire. Were bypassed because nobody was represented. And back then I was like, man, I wish I could do that, but I'm working for El Paso Fire. I can only give little inputs. But so now I'm thinking I could, before we hired Chief Burton, of course, I was going to help you all out. And like I said, if not, I can still also help Chief Burton, on certain little things that I know of through the years and still go on. Complaints, I can know how to go down there to 911 and look at, everything's recorded down there. And really, like right now with Sunset Funeral Home, by the way, I'm dressed like this because I'm on call. I'm also security for them. Also, we had 2 calls just recently. No PD was dispatched. That's really bad. It was an assault, 2 assault cases. And Chief Burton would know, you need to send the PD. I was trained, no matter what happens, you send somebody. And that's my attitude. You send somebody. I myself was in 911, never transferred the call to Socorro on one call I had. And I thought that was ridiculous. I filed a big complaint because that's ridiculous. Socorro, 911 gets a call. I'm sorry, I'm in Socorro. I need police department. You're supposed to get a little information, make sure you got everything, address. You transfer it to Socorro. You don't just blow it off and then and so I filed a big complaint like that. And through those years, I was thinking, God, I wish I could do something to get back there, and hey, people, Socorro needs us. Socorro needs 911. We're part of you guys. Don't be. Oh, I'll tell you a little I had a call one time, it was snowing, I was gonna go to 911, I call up, and one of the call takers actually told me, I said, how are the roads, what, you know, what's closed? And they actually said, oh, I don't know, I live on the west side, I don't care about Socorro or the valley. I went down and I filed a big complaint against that call taker. That was a bad attitude, come on. That is very bad attitude, and those are the things that I like to, I wanna check into, you know, continue and now help out, because I want things for Socorro, you know what I mean? To help out, and also the Lower Valley. If I hear stuff at the Lower Valley, I will also try to help them out. But like I said, I just want to, it's not for the money or anything, I'm volunteering on my own, because I want to help out. I mean, I want Socorro not to be let out in the colder Lower Valley, you know. So I'm sorry. It just, you know, I'm thinking of how we were put aside sometimes.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, so we can only appoint one member to the board.
Right.
So it would either be Mr. Ortiz or our Chief Burton. That would be up to council, and you can appoint either. What I'm saying is, what if we appoint Chief and make him work hand in hand with Mr. Ortiz?
That's the understanding.
Yeah, that's the
Correct.
understanding.
Chief, I don't know if you want to address council?
Evening, Council and Mayor. My name's Chief Burton. I'm obviously the new Chief of Police. It would help me a lot with the local knowledge if Mr. Ortiz could assist me in the volunteer role. I have an open door policy anyway with the community, so I'd appreciate any comments and feedback that he could bring to me. Mr. Rodarte said that I could work once a month. Absolutely. If Mr. Ortiz wanted to come in more than that, he's more than welcome to do so.
Mr. Perez?
I think that we have an opportunity to have like a community liaison type situation where as a volunteer, he is helping also with Victor disseminate information or provide information that needs to be disseminated. So I think that there is more than just the function of the 911, but also a community outreach as well.
Well, and like I tell you,
If he's
I'm
up
gonna
to
work
it.
with him
I
for
don't know
the
if Mr. Ortiz is up to
RFQ,
it, but if he's up to it, that would be a good.
for the
good
ambulance
function.
services, because he does bring a lot of knowledge when it comes to that. So that's
19
something that
years.
we're gonna be working together.
Mr.
So
Duran?
what we would ask is to delete 19, and then we would rule on 20. No? Oh, 20. Delete number 20 and act on number 19.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes,
Mr. Duran?
So in other words, we're gonna delete number 20 and then not really vote, but just have Mr. Ortiz as a volunteer?
Assisting Chief Burton, you're appointing Chief Burton
Mhm.
with the condition that Mr. Ortiz will, I mean, he attends the meetings already, he'll assist Chief Burton.
Yes.
In other words, the primary would be Chief Burton.
Primary, yeah. that- Okay.
Right.
All right.
I amend the motion to have Mr. Burton.
Delete,
Delete item 20.
delete item 20.
20 and,
You're not on 19 yet, just delete 20.
okay.
Delete 20. Do we have a
Second.
second?
Delete 20.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 19, discussion and action to approve the appointment of Chief David Burton to the 911 District Board. Mr. Duran?
Motion to-
Make a motion to appoint Chief David Burton to the 911 District Board and to have as a 911 volunteer, Mr. Albert Ortiz.
Second.
Do you have a speaker?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Do we have anything for 21, 22, and 23?
No.
Motion to delete items 21 through 23.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.